Good evening, everyone. Robbie K here, coming at you with another Robbie K's movie reviews. And today we are looking at, or I should say tonight, based on the setting, we are looking at none other than the movie talking about how we reached for the stars. That's right, I'm talking about the movie to portray the Apollo missions for trying to get to the moon. And yes, it is called First Man, in case I ever stop rambling like an idiot. Welcome to Robbie K's Reviews, and get ready as we try to dive into the latest potential artistic wonder. A movie that could potentially be up for some Oscars based on all the hype present as well as the commercial media. We all know commercials sometimes do a little more hyperbole than we want to see. But that's where I come in with two of my friends, Jen and Todd, who are also part of this review and have given me some good insight as we get ready for another review on First Man again. Alright, if you're new to the channel, thank you for joining, and as always, here's how we break it down. Step 1 is all about essentially giving you what the trailer is about, in case you haven't already gotten it from my review. Step 2 is talking about kind of the quick and dirty review, and Step 3 is kind of getting into more of the likes and dislikes about it for those who like a little more details to the review. Well, let's get started as we kind of start with First Man's trailer. If you haven't seen it, it's about the tale of the legendary Neil Armstrong, one of the first men to walk on the moon, and more so about the pilot and pioneer to try to get the programs designed, applicable, and to the steps of man walking first on the moon. Now, if you're all big on conspiracy theories and talking about the fact that we've got a lot of puppetry and magic and wonder, probably not going to be the movie for you right off the bat. But for those looking at the space exploration, First Man offers potentially a full-on detail of how we achieve the cosmic possible that set forth the age of kind of science fiction and science fact. Now, as we kind of look into this, where do we go from it? Well, it starts with essentially looking at the movie overall with our first part of the trailer. And with First Man, I guess the quick and dirty review is this. It's definitely more of a artistic approach to the advancement of describing a historical journey. It's definitely got its premise and thoughts in terms of a very unique approach of giving you all the pieces, but putting a lot of reflective thought into it. And as a result, it's not going to be kind of the dramatization, Hollywood pioneering that a lot of people usually like with these historical context films. Still, gotta agree with my buddy Todd and Jen that the struggle for how they got to where they did was well portrayed in here, as well as kind of the tedious tolls that take place on Neil Armstrong. Acting-wise, I would say that there's definitely some more realistic components, with Gosling once again reaching for the Oscar gold, with a little more, I guess, in-your-head thought realization than the leading wonder dance man that we saw in La La Land. So definitely some props to him there for taking, again, a darker, more mindful role, I guess, in a film like this. Nevertheless, you've got yourself one of those that if you're looking at more of kind of just the pieces of a historical textbook with lots of thought and reflection, this movie's going to be for you. But those looking for a little more of like Remember the Titans feel, magic, where Hollywood pumps in enough feel-good, kind of magical special effects wonder, you're going to have to be ready for a little more grounded version. Nevertheless, I would say the movie does its job in at least showing the pioneering components of it, which if you're looking for that kind of adventure, look no further. In regards to kind of what I would give it in terms of dramatization, I guess science fact with historical biography, I'd probably say when all is said and done a 7.5. Movie overall, probably a 6.5. If you really want a little more why, stick around for the details. Otherwise, we'll see you next week when we have more reviews coming. In regards to those who are a little more detail-oriented, we start, of course, as always, with the likes, because we always like to start on a positive foot and give them credit for what they did well. First of all, acting is, again, the key part here, with everybody kind of doing their part to really bring the struggles of the program. The leads obviously being Ryan Gosling and the woman who played his wife, who I'm sorry I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Both of them a solid fact of kind of representing that coin of the aspiring hero facing the challenges in the unknown, and the supportive wife having to put up with a lot of the fear herself in her own way, and be the pinnacle rock that supports everything. Fantastic presentation on both of their parts, with the wife's solid destitute bringing a kind of comedic portrayal and relief, meeting a strong maternal figure to really drop the ball onto it. Whereas when it comes to Ryan Gosling, the guy really portrayed someone stuck in sort of a traumatic experience, balancing kind of his own inner demons with facing the threats of the unknown and the destruction that could lead with the space program. I would definitely say that those are probably the strongest components, but we've got some other things to really talk about. I gotta give it props for its unique approach to it. It may not be the overall thing, but I am giving them props that they at least tried a different original approach to break out of the mold that Hollywood dramatization does. So kudos to them for, you know, kind of blasting away from the launch pad of kind of cliche dramatizations and putting forth a very original, realistic approach. And I'd agree that the realistic factor there is probably going to be up the alleys for those looking for more science fact than science fiction. First Man did a fantastic job trying to keep to its reins and really get you into the process. And I think, I'll get to that in a minute, and I think that at least, you know, not hearing all the sounds in space and not the fantasy whim is kind of going to be a plus for many of those looking for a movie where biography and facts outweigh the magic of the Hollywood cinema. If we still haven't kind of convinced you in terms of the likes, I would say that we had a also big thing in regards to what else? Setting wise, I think they did a nice job as well. I'm always a sucker and appreciate kind of the magical use of going back in time. First, the setting, the clothes, the costumes, the hairstyles, the makeup, all of that really came together to bring you back into the era of the 60s as all this was occurring. You've got great use of editing and live footage to kind of fully bring you back into the immersion component. And in regards to kind of using the grainy filter of the cameras, smart choice, because again, feels like you're looking through the eyes of a newscast, but in a more like 2020, 60-minute segment where you're diving into the deep details, while at the same time just bringing forth a really nostalgic approach to it. So, you know, well done to that as well. But by far, and I totally agree with this in terms of what my main man Todd and, of course, the lovely Jen were telling me about, is that the fact is you've got one heck of a portrayal of the struggle. You know, we often see that we get some montages to overcome various components, skipping ahead of time or something magically happening. And in terms of this one, I believe they did a very nice job developing most of the program without, of course, giving us every step of the way. True, I want more. That's going to be coming up in the dislike section, but man, was the struggle and the immersion of the of most of the experiences fantastically done in terms of feeling like you are on some type of ride going into space. So very nicely done there in terms of the special effects and editing. So well done, as I keep saying, like a broken record. You've got one heck of a portrayal in terms of it, and I think people are going to like the immersion that comes with it. Well, that's essentially where the likes are. Let's get to the dislikes now, because of course every movie has some areas to improve in most parts. When it comes to this movie, one of the biggest things is that I have to agree with Jen on this. Even though we're getting immersed into the full-on experience, part of the thing that's very difficult is sometimes the special effects, the muffled voices, and the feeling of authenticity gets in the way of actually hearing the dialogue. And for those looking for a little more kind of well-written, wittier components, you're not going to get this in it. First Man's lines are very dry and very technically loaded, with jargon coming out the wazoo. And even more so, the muffled commands of the radio mixed with the muffled voices of the astronauts essentially make it very difficult sometimes to follow what's going on, relying on you paying attention to your knobs, key kind of signal points, and of course, hopefully a knowledge of rocket-based physics to kind of help you get an idea of what in the world is going on. It's not the easiest to follow at times, so if you're kind of lost and trying to figure it out, they will eventually guide you back. But it's also, again, a little more of a challenge compared to some of the other dramatizations that we've seen of Space Odyssey. Now, if you're still not into it, I guess the next component is that sometimes I can say that some of the extra secondary characters, while they did their part, got their acting components, and I'm not dismantling the acting whatsoever, but I can't say that I like I guess either the writing or the direction to disinclude and kind of lower them down into some of the secondary statuses. I don't know if they utilize the characters well, or if this is what happened. This is where the abstract approach kind of nips you in the bud, because some of those relationships and components you get, and others a little more in regards to just some more thought fodder to get Ryan Gosling kind of sulking at the camera. I guess that's going to be where I can hit the approaches. The abstract approach works on some levels. It's thought-provoking and kind of breaks down your psyche to think, if I was in this, could I handle the stresses that are coming with it and the setbacks that come with, especially at the cost that sometimes are required in order to make scientific advancement. And while I think that's a very good approach, unfortunately the abstract is not going to be for everyone, because the piecemeal approach and kind of taking these setbacks and looking at the thought process of everyone is not going to be entertaining to most, given the modern attention span. You're looking for seeing the challenges. Like, think about Hidden Figures, where relationships are being tested, characters grow, and you see like fantastic kind of Hollywood-infused gold put in there to kind of offset some of the lackluster that real life can be. And in this one, that wasn't the case, and I think that's what it's missing. Unfortunately, I think this abstract approach, again, is going to give you that psychological component, but it's not going to be, it's going to be monotonous, especially seeing how many times Ryan Gosling is essentially staring, sulking, and looking like he's about to break down. If that's kind of your two thumbs up approach, you've got that for you if you want that psychological component. But for me, I like a little more variety to it, and I think that abstract approach is going to maybe get it in trouble with the modern audiences while make it appreciative in the Oscars role. I would say again that, you know, I would have liked to see a little more involvement in the family, some character development and growth in that, especially when it came to some of the NASA heads and their constant challenges. I don't think that was very utilized well. And I would have liked a little more linear approach to kind of help with it. But by far, the biggest thing that I wish it could have done was not feel as slow as it did. It took a while to get to that point, and again, they were trying to focus a little more on the challenges and portrayal of Buzz's mindset versus and Neil Armstrong's mindsets, while at the same time trying to give you the full-on experience. And while that balance is much appreciated and the effort is appreciated, I gotta say, there were times where it crawled, and to get to the parts where that balance was now finally happening took a little while to get to for me. And as such, that abstract piecemeal approach really kind of needed a little cleaning and editing for my taste. But still, you know, not the most sloppy of executions. Anyways, let's get to the final summary. The truth is, First Man is a good technical spectacle of essentially a lot of challenges the space program had, and immersing you not only in the time and era, but the full-on experience. You've got a psychological component that works very well, and if you're looking for a little more of that kind of mindset and the challenges of kind of reflecting on what you just saw, you've got yourself your movie of the weekend. If you're looking for a little more of kind of the entertainment value where reality is molded through rose-colored glasses and Hollywood magic to be an entertaining spectacle while teaching a lesson, you only got probably about a 25% version of that. And in the meantime, you need to be ready, because this is not one to go into feeling sleepy unless you're looking for a good nap. Regardless, the movie overall, as you've heard, I'm giving it probably a 7.5 in its category, 6.5 and 7 movie overall. Again, appreciating the artistic aspects, but realizing that sometimes the artistic things needs a little more entertainment infused to get kind of a lot of people into the set. Anyways, guys, while this may not be the big blockbuster that I think I was hoping it to be, I'd still say that it's worth a trip to the theater for the technical effects. But again, not looking for a slow film, pick something else. This is Robbie K coming at you and wishing you a great night. We'll be back next week with a few more blockbusters and a little more components. have a good night, and thank you as always for watching. Please share, like, and help me make these better. Thanks, guys.